Hello and welcome. This is Pepin from Pepin Reacts, and today we have a very, very special episode. This is the Christmas episode of Breaking Bad. Also, I got my best friend here. His name is Meader. How you doing, Meader?
I'm here too.
Yeah, you are. That's true. Factual. And I think this episode we're gonna have a lot of white stuff. Like, who knows what it could be? It's gonna be under the tree, under the carpet. Who knows? I'm excited. Do you have any theories, Meter? I mean, I know you've seen the show before, the whole thing. I've only seen like the first season and a half or something like that. But you know, what's your predictions here?
My predictions are it's going to turn out Walt Jr. is a kingpin, and he's been behind it the whole time and probably murdered somebody.
And when you say behind it the whole time, you don't mean the baby.
Leave that for you.
Let's get into it now.
There's only one way to find out. Right here, live on Pepin Reacts. Pepin Reacts pops in.
Ooh, I think you did a good job with that. That should be like my intro thing.
We'll work on it.
Nice. Okay, that was the season finale of Breaking Bad. Season finale? I thought it was good. If I'm being real, I don't think this was a great episode. I think it was probably the worst episode they've had so far. Which is not to say it's bad. I just think there's some. I mean, okay, it doesn't really feel like a climax exactly, I'd say. And then I'd also say some of the plot elements were very surface level. It was just like a lot of surface level drama, which not necessarily bad, but that's just kind of my thoughts there. But we can get more into it, and maybe I'll change my mind because Meader has a lot of interesting perspectives that usually illuminate my like greater understanding, like for Marie, for instance. So, Meader, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. I like that episode, especially as a season finale. I think it wraps up a lot of plots. It while also tying everything together and setting a precedent for the future seasons. I think it leaves them in an exciting place that is head and shoulders above where we started.
I think it does move the plot along pretty well because it establishes like this is where we were and this is where we are. So it's definitely like a new chapter in a way, or maybe a second book. And you can see how the characters are changed. A lot of things are on the table. The changes in Walt are quite apparent. And then also the plot dynamic for the next season are established. So I think I could see that. I could say maybe it's not like a... I wouldn't say it's a great season finale, but maybe it fits more into like the later seasons. Because usually, maybe this is just my mind, but usually I see season finales as being like very like extra or very epic, like the highest suspense or whatever. But that wasn't there too much. But again, maybe my opinion will differ on this as things go on. But let's talk about some of the plot elements to it. So there's a baby shower. Actually, we'll start to the beginning here. So Walt and Skylar were at like the PTA meeting or something like that. I don't know what it was, but they were getting talked to about the stolen lab equipment, and Walt got turned on by it, and subsequently he turned on Skylar a bit because that's what was surprising from Skylar, I think, because he's putting his hand on her leg, and she was not backing away. And I don't know if that's because that's a part of Walt she's never really seen and just likes it. It's she's a little bit of an exhibitionist like that, or if something else. But they definitely made a drug like analogy there, and Walt was loving it. And Walt's kind of on a drug of power right now, power or control or something like that. And sex and violence are very tied together, and he was just enjoying that whole thing because he was in complete control of that situation. What are your thoughts on that scene, Steve?
I think Walt did a lot of testing the waters with Skylar this episode, all told, and I think this was the first foray into that. Testing the waters of doing something illegal with her and how receptive she would be to doing so. I think that was a lot of what that whole situation was about, as well as Walt kind of flirting with the idea that can't be not going to be caught, and he's so not suspected that he can do stuff right in front of people and nobody will suspect him of anything. Next to the cop car, they're doing something illegal. Right in that room, they're doing something not socially acceptable.
Is it surprising to you that Skylar is about this? Like, that she's into it?
No, I don't know that we know too much about Skylar in general. Yeah, somewhat that is surprising. But I think it kind of adds another layer to her and to her and Walt's relationship both.
Because maybe in a way, because Walt's been discovering his bad side or his dark side, and that's been a big story. My hypothesis has been that he's kind of rediscovering his base self in a way. Like he's kind of going back to like his ideal self, which is like a scientific thinking sort of thing that's this forceful reaction to the world. And maybe in a way, Skylar's kind of getting a similar thing to that. And there were some ties with other plot points, like Hank dirtying his hands with Cuban cigars. There is Marie dirtying her hands with the whole stealing thing. Even a little bit of Walt Jr. He was dirtying his hands with taking video of side boob, which, come on, Walt Jr. Like, your family's gonna see that. Like, always gonna be looking at this thing, like, why is there so much side boob?
Yeah, I mean, everybody did illegal stuff in that episode.
So they're all kind of culpable, but I'd say Walt's probably, he's killed somebody. I think Hank's probably killed somebody, but it's probably a little bit different in that case. You could be arguments about that, but Walt's killed somebody like cold blood, you could say, or it was premeditated, and it was to cover up a drug crime. So you could say Walt's probably on the lesser tier of evil there. Probably second to that would be Marie. Maybe Hank's somewhere in there, but Hank's a little bit of a weird scenario here because he's technically enforcing the law, and what he's doing is socially acceptable, but maybe the tactics he does or the attitudes he has aren't productive or good. So I think there's some confusion with that one, but I'd say Walt, Marie, Walt Jr., Hank, Skylar. I don't know why I put Walt Jr. there, but let's just pretend like it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, what I would somewhat agree. I think that what Skylar and Walt did is the lowest tier because it was victimless. And then next up would be Walt Jr., which is pretty near victimless, other than the exploitation of that woman without her knowing, which is obviously not right. But compared to Walt or even Marie's theft of hundreds of dollars worth of stuff, or what we are now starting to see is more a serial thing where she's doing this at least twice now. It's going to be on a higher tier than that. You might say that Hank's grievances are worse than Marie's because Hank's job is to uphold the law, and like that's a big part of his responsibility in society, and he's taking part in the exact system that is in place that prevents other people from doing the same thing. So he's reaping the rewards of that he would bust somebody else for. It's like taking a cigar out of somebody's mouth, putting them in jail, and then smoking it yourself. Like, I'd say that is worse than even the theft.
Yeah, like I guess that's like a philosophical point right there, where if you are imposing morality onto people, you yourself have to be at least 10% more moral than the rules you're imposing. So Hank does not fit that criteria. Like, you can't bust like, this is a big criticism of some politicians. Obama was a big one that this was a criticism on, but not to get too political, but he had smoked marijuana and also had done cocaine, and he was busting people, for those things. He was quite into that. So into busting people. So that is a bit hypocritical on that end because, you know, if you believe you had a chance, you needed a chance for this, and you would have been say, okay, we're gonna get off topic here if I keep going, but I think there's a point to that where Hank is not of a high enough level of morality to really justify his actions there. He's just kind of going with the flow. It's like, yeah, chumps.
Yeah.
But he does draw a line, and that's the point he made, because they had the conversation, and Walt seemed pretty in control of that conversation. Hank made it look a little like marijuana inference there. And it's funny how Walt just kind of stopped. Just a little bit of awkwardness. And I think Walt realized what was happening there at that point.
Yeah.
And then Hank kind of like did a little escalation there himself. It's like, well, what about like, you know, heroin, cocaine, you know, the line gets drawn there. And Walt wasn't willing to draw any lines, which is kind of intriguing because, like you're saying, this episode's a lot about drawing lines, and he didn't draw any line there.
I think it's more about testing the waters. That's what he was doing. Pretty much every action Walt took was him testing the waters and seeing what people's breaking points were and where people lie in relation to the actions that he's taking. He tested them with Hank there. He tested them with Skylar later on in that conversation where they were talking about, what if I was the one doing stealing? That was him testing it. He tested how willing she was to get her own hands dirty by doing illegal things directly with her.
Oh, I see. So he was, I'm not going to say implicating, but kind of dual experience. Yeah, kind of testing the waters. It's interesting. Nobody suspects Walt of being involved, at least during that meeting. All the teachers are kind of talking bad, or all the people are talking bad about the janitor. Like, did he do a background check? And it's like, yeah, I get it. Like, I could imagine being in that room and hearing that kind of shit.
For sure.
It's just like, come on, people. Come on.
That conversation has happened 1,000 times this year, I bet.
It's like, who cares? Like, even if someone's done like cocaine or like, I don't know, some crazy drugs. Yeah. Like, I think what matters is more where people are right now than where they've been. And also, it's marijuana. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, you know, and I guess that's a little bit of a point that Walt was making. Like, what's bad one day is good the next. Who knows?
Yep.
So we go into like a baby shower. I don't know if too much interesting happened besides a conversation between Walt and Hank. I mean, that was a good conversation. But
conversation between Walt and his daughter is, I think, very pivotal.
So it's like the conversation kind of started out as a bit of a eulogy, or like he wasn't going to be there to kind of say it, which it's kind of sad in a way. And unfortunately, I think that's how I'd approach the conversation too. But then I would kind of have to steer it back and like, I'm not doing that. So I definitely felt that there. Do you have the similar perception of that?
Yeah, somewhat. I think it was a very general, this is what I want to say to you. And you can put that lens on it of, because I may not get another opportunity. I think it was just, I see the opportunity to speak to you now. You're seeing this in the future. It seemed like something very premeditated. Like, the first thing he says is, I think about you all the time. And I think that was very clear in what he said, because he was succinct, but it was also very, very heartfelt at the same time.
Mm-hmm. That's a big change with him in general in this episode. And I think it's just a matter of fact that he did this crazy thing last episode with blowing up the building, because he just seems so confident and just so, like, I'm not gonna say secure, but he has like a different air about him, and that might be part of it there, because he spoke with such confidence, and I might say that's part of the reasoning there, why he's sounded premeditated. Or I think they said it with confidence, but that's just a slightly different perspective on that. And then Okay, I'm going to talk about two things here, and these kind of interplay. So there's the whole thing where they have to get, Walt has an idea, and he promises more meth than they expect. And he has a plan. Well, just got to get the stuff. Jesse's very resourceful and gets the stuff. Jesse, at the same time, is selling his house. And they go steal a barrel. And then they start making meth in the basement while there's a full house or a open house. I get the let's get the pure chemicals and everything, but I thought both of those kind of other aspects were a little bit silly, like stealing the barrel and just being that easy, and it's more like a little comical than anything. Maybe it's gonna go down the line, and also the whole open house thing there. Like I don't think the open house aspect had to be in the story at all, or Jesse selling his house, because it didn't have any effect except for a little bit of tiny tension there. Like just a tiny bit of tension where they had to keep him out, but it wasn't even that big of a deal to keep him out. Just eventually just tell him to go away. So I don't think it was integral to the plot, and that whole little, oh no, they're in here, it felt like false tension, a little bit of padding to me, which I've been very praiseworthy of the show. But unfortunately, when I see little issues like that at least I perceive to be issues, I kind of like focus on them. What are your thoughts? How can you defend it if you can, or
I think the beginning of it with him selling his house kind of showed Jesse's state of mind, because he got out of the hospital. He didn't know Walt had done any of this stuff, or Walt intended to keep cooking, or any of that. Like the escalation happened very rapidly in this episode of their business. So in Jesse's mind, he's done. He's going to cut his losses and sell his house and move. He doesn't feel comfortable in his house, doesn't feel comfortable with the things that have happened to him. He's ready to move on. Then Walt comes in and convinces him to stay. And not only is he now staying in that house, staying with those demons that surround him, but he's doubling down, and in the same basement where all this shit happened, they're now continuing to cook and escalate their business. So I think it's kind of a big thing that took Jesse from this, I'm going to move on and leave these demons behind, these demons in the basement behind, to I am now working beside these demons to grow this business and go forward down the path that the demons live on. I think that was super interesting. The open house thing, I think, was probably on your side. There's kind of like some unnecessary tension that didn't really go anywhere, which is good, because that does a great job of adding tension and having tension in every episode, but probably not the best way to do it. Maybe not even necessary at all. Maybe there's something that'll come of that we don't know about yet. That's possible. Or maybe somebody saw something. Who knows? There knows what could be coming from that we don't know about.
Yep. I mean, some girl was smelling something, so there was that. I feel bad for the realtor, because she was putting on such a good fake act, and it just became harder and harder to do with this guy. And I do say come back a little bit with the severity of the selling the house, because I think that makes sense, because Jesse was not aware that any of that happened, and so he was trying to sell his house before Walt got there, and it makes sense because he got the shit beat out of him. He got away, but he probably expects Tuco's gonna come back from him at some point and kill him, right? So okay, I agree with you that maybe selling the house, or when we get more serious, I agree with you that selling the house wasn't stupid. So that makes sense plot wise, but the selling and the open house, and then I guess they had to establish that he would want to get out of there, but then they had to like keep him there, right? And that's the way to do it. So it works in that sort of way. So I'm still a bit iffy on the later part, but the first part I agree with. That makes sense. What do you think?
If nothing else comes of it, I'm 100% in your corner. That was the open house thing was a waste of time. It was a really shitty way to get your heart pumping for something that didn't matter at all. There was no payoff.
Yeah, yeah. And also, it's kind of like you can see it through the windows there. Like,
Yeah.
I've been doing some open houses recently, and that's one thing you do. Like when you're walking around the outside of the house, which you do, you look through the windows. Why? Because you want to see what it looks like through the windows.
You want to see if there's a meth operation in the basement. You know what it might be also symbolic of is Walt's confidence, and that he's not taking a lot of the precautions that he would normally take because of how confident he is. And like you said, they're just like continued to cook while all those people were up there. It was like Walt was just like, all right, go handle it, which showed that he trusted Jesse to just like make it happen. Just that's a big step. Included that also was shown when he had Jesse get all of these things and just left him to it and said, like, I believe in you. You're the only one who can do this. Put him back on board. And he didn't care about covering the windows. He didn't care about any of that. That may be showing that Walt is confident, maybe to the point of some slight carelessness, which again, this could be minor indications now of bigger problems down the road. I think it'll be interesting to see if anything comes of it. That's where I'll leave that. Is I agree with you, but let's see if anything comes of it. I still have faith in Vince Gilligan and the writing crew.
So, with that, also, it's a good point that he was being careless, but he was also like he did a good job because only one person that we saw was kind of like doing a little sniff. So that's pretty good for cooking like meth in the basement. So that's pretty decent. Jesse was kind of standing up for himself a little bit because, you know, I guess it's a street smarts, book smart sort of thing, and Walt doesn't think about like some of those more simpler aspects, like where did the Sudafed actually come from? You think it's easy to get? Like he spent like a week, you know, trying to get it, and Jesse's very good at sourcing. That's one of his skills, like a very good skill he has. Because the fact he got like almost all that stuff, except for the methylene, is pretty methylamine. It's pretty impressive. Going on to the break-in scene, it seemed a little bit underwhelming. Because it's almost like they like, okay, imagine like you're gonna break into a top secret like military base, and it plays out like that. It's kind of like, oh yeah, they just locked someone in the bathroom and took off with a barrel.
That would have been stupid if they were in a top secret military base.
Yeah. I mean,
they were just at some chemical warehouse. Like, have you ever seen the security at a warehouse? It's a guy on a little golf cart riding around taking a shit every hour. Like.
Am I overestimating the security?
I think you are.
Okay.
I think if anything, the underwhelmingness of it is like even more the point. Like, I think it's more realistic that, you know, imagine if that was your job, you were the security guard and you've done that for the last 15 years. Nobody's ever tried to break in or anything. You wouldn't be suspicious. Like, then all it takes is one break-in, though, and I bet that changes all of their procedures and all that stuff.
Yep.
It did seem easy, but I might argue that it would be easy to do something like that.
The fact that they just kind of walked it out, that was a little bit strange.
It was strange to me, too.
Maybe they didn't want them to know that they were taking the barrel away, but at the same time, they're gonna do inventory after that sort of stuff. They're gonna have like video. Like, they're gonna know what was stolen. So they just made it so hard on themselves. But it's a little bit. I think that thing was more like for comedy than anything else. I would
probably.
say. But I just don't think it worked super well for me. But who knows? It might change my mind. It might change my mind later on. And so they got the methylene. Also, one other point is that they use thermite to kind of break through the lock. I think they've been pretty good about like the chemical type stuff, but that's not how thermite looks. Thermite's way, way deadlier than that. They made this look like sparklers, which I think it's probably was the sparklers. But thermite does some crazy stuff. It's like molten lava almost. It's pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, it looks like he cut it with something. He got thermite out of those things, but then he mixed in some other chemical, remember? He broke open all the Etch-a-Sketches and put them all in a thing, and then he had something in a plastic container that he poured in. It was like an orange red color. Red rock, red sand or whatever.
I'm not certain.
So he might have cut it with something that, I don't know, science.
Yeah. But a thermite would definitely get any locks open, that's for sure. It will destroy them. And then, so they have enough methylene to last, like, essentially the rest of the show, it seems. That's what they're implying. And so, it kind of makes sense, methylene, because meth is, I forget what meth is exactly chemically, but it's got a methyl group in there. So methylene, meth, it makes sense. Anything that's derivative of that. So I'm trying to think of anything else with Walt and them, Walt and Jesse. Can't think of anything too much more. So we can move on to Skylar. So there's this whole scene, or this whole plot point about the bracelet or tiara, which tiara is a weird gift for a baby. And you made the point, which we'll get to, that the gift is for the child, not for the parents. I disagree with that. I think when you have a baby shower, everything is for the parents, essentially. But you're getting stuff the parents would want to buy for the baby. And a $500, $600 tiara that's like all gold and studded, like who would want to buy that for the baby? Unless they're like just rich people. But it's just a weird gift. And Skylar was mad. And I was kind of confused about what the madness was, or the anger was, but it's because she bought her that when she could have bought her something more usable. And she knows that they have money issues. So why wouldn't she, weaponize? And so Skylar goes to return it. She knows that Marie's going to have an issue with returning it. And then she gets held up. And she's like, you can't detain me. And it's correct. They can't detain her legally. Like, I think it's like big thing is if someone steals from you, you can't just lock them up. You have to everything has to be voluntary. So Skylar was right there, but she didn't know what she was doing. But then she faked being pregnant. She did a very good job.
She faked being in labor.
Okay, it's the same thing.
Okay.
I mean, what is pregnancy but one very long bout of labor with an intense burst at the end?
Not that.
I'm defending myself, Steve. Let me do it.
I understand poorly. On.
So she gets out of there essentially through blackmail. I think I agree. It's kind of a blackmail that she was doing, and then I guess they got it back too. So didn't care too much. Let's just get this lady out of our hair. We got the tiara back, so this is good enough, I guess. And she confronts Marie, and Marie just kind of pretends not to know what she's talking about. She's like, "What? What are you talking about?" And they had a bit of an argument there, a bit of a falling out. I know people like Marie. I've seen that kind of thoughts and behaviors where you bring up something that they did wrong and just deny it. Just like that. It's such an interesting personality aspect. And I think I've done that before too, a couple times. Maybe not to that degree, probably more with little things, I think. But I've seen people do it on the extreme scale like that. And it's the weirdest kind of behavior there. So what are your thoughts of all of that plot line right there? That whole kind of beat?
I don't know. I think it's everybody having an illegal thing that they're doing and everybody kind of handling it differently. Hank's just very open about it. He's like, yeah, it's illegal. I did a friend a favor for an FBI guy and now I have this illegal thing and we're smoking it together. Walt kind of testing the waters, asking people different things, asking different people about their own thoughts on morality. behind illegal things. Skylar doing an illegal thing, but it's like a victimless thing, and then responding negatively to other times that it's brought to her attention, like with Marie or when Walt asks her boldface. And Marie's defense is to just straight up lie. So maybe to the point of even being in denial herself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to see the different way that people are handling their own morality and their own way of confronting when they're doing things that are illegal.
What do you? I know you probably can't answer this fully, but what do you think Marie's motive is in stealing?
The same thing I've always said, it is power.
I'm getting more and more the impression that it's about keeping up with looks. Like, so there's a contrast between Walt and Hank's family, right? And Hank's family seems to be a bit better off. And they don't have kids, so there's that. But they seem to be a little bit better off. And I kind of wonder if they're not actually that much better off. And if it's more that they're trying to put on that look. Like, maybe they're not doing bad. But I think Marie wants to appear as more successful or, say, higher class than she actually is. Like, she's got some insecurity there. And kind of going to her speech to Holly, Walt's newborn baby, and this is, okay, stop. So going to the speech that she gave, it seemed to me like she was talking about looks, like, oh, I'm not going to age in these next, 20 years when you see this, because I'm perfect and beautiful forever and for always. And so I think it's very pertinent that that was about looks and appearance there, because I think that's kind of her thing. And of course, there's probably some power aspects there too. But I think the end goal for Walt, like the mechanism that drives him is power, but the end goal is money. For Marie, the main mechanism that drives her is probably power as well, and control. But I think more so the end goal is status. And
maybe it's what these people perceive as power. It's different.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's probably the way to look at it. Because power is amorphous. Yeah, you're right about that. Because, like, for some person, power might be social status. Another person might be, like, say, physical strength. Another person, it might be knowledge, right? There's many different aspects to that. And, yeah, I think you're right. They have different conceptions of power. Walt doesn't care about the status of power. Or at least I don't think he does. He seems a little bit missed about it based off that time he saw that New York Times cover with his partner on there, with the guy from Gray Matter. But I don't think he cares about power per se, or like how people see him necessarily. But Marie's quite the opposite. Skylar, I don't think Skylar has any detrimental flaws right yet. Not that I can think of. Maybe she's a little bit prissy. I mean, that's the only thing I think of.
She's too pious.
Yeah, she's a little pious. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, and maybe a little pushy too. Yeah, I can come up with some minor flaws, but generally she's not like too crazy or anything. She doesn't do anything too immoral. I mean, she talks about things behind her back, but I mean, I think that's kind of normal. So I'm trying to think of any other plot points here. Can you think of any, Meader?
Yeah, you didn't talk about Tuko at all.
Oh yeah, Tuko Sam. So,
your favorite cereal time friend.
So, what would you say there is to discuss about Tuko?
Why? Well, I think that Walt and Jesse's relationship with Tuko is interesting, as well as Tuko's relationship with his own people. So with Walt willing to like say, I want all of it, asking to be on consignment, like fronted, while not even not understanding the lingo fully. Jesse being a translator there, super interesting. Jesse being willing to stand beside Walt, go back to the guy who beat his head in, or his gut, as it were.
Hmm.
Tuco's response in seeing Jesse, and just Tuco's mindset in general is all, I think, very interesting. I'm interested in your take on all of it.
Yeah. The first thing I'll say is that Walt makes a very good argument, and it's that Tuco speaks in money. I think that's the language of Tuco. Money and respect. And if you don't have money, you don't have respect. And I guess there's like sort of power plays too, but it's like Jesse couldn't back down when he learned that Tuco gave him 35 grand, I think it was. You know, like, oh, he gave you that? Then that means Tuco's serious. He wouldn't give you that money if he wasn't trying to do this thing. Now, Jesse has some hesitation here because he knows Tuco's crazy. And Tuco's not a person to mess with. And I think that's the biggest risk here that Walt's not really calculating is Tuco is interested in money. That's his language, but that's not his only language. His other language is also respect and kind of dominance, because he first wanted to get rid of Walt and them because actually he wanted off Jesse because he wanted to be the only supplier in that region. So it's kind of a power dominance sort of thing. So I don't think Walt's fully accounting for Tuco. And Tuco as a character, I mean, number one, Walt is somehow able to speak his language because Walt's speaking that Walt, the interest of money and everything like that. So somehow he's able to communicate. He's also doing it very confidently, which I think you have to do with Tuco. Like when you heard Tuco's dude kind of talking back or kind of speaking for him, he did it very kind of like subservient kind of tone, kind of like Jesse was doing. And Tuco does not respond to that because he just sees that and he just sees you as weak, not an equal, and then he just kind of just start going off. So I think I'm trying to think more about Tuco here because I'm gathering my thoughts. So Tuco is definitely crazy. He's messed up, and he is somewhat rational. He like I said, he thinks in money, but I don't think money is the only thing he thinks of, or he thinks about money in the long term. And he sees Walt and Jesse as his bitch essentially now, which I think that was kind of like the setting in, the dawning of like a realization there. Like, number one, they're getting involved with this guy who just beat up like one of his underlings, just like for saying something so simple. And of course, he was on meth and maybe some extra powerful meth, if we were to guess. But, with Tuco asserting that essentially, oh yeah, they work for me, I think that was a very poignant point they're making there. And also that they just got beaten up, or he's got beaten up, it's kind of saying that that could happen to them too. If they start kind of talking back or kind of doing stuff like that, then he might be liable to beat them up as well. So I think it's like a giant hairball if they got him into with Tuco. Like, he could do a lot of benefit as far as cash and money, but the way that Tuco kind of sees this is very detrimental to them because, yes, they have a supplier, but that supplier is, not a good guy. Like, if you mess with them, or if you don't produce the product, that's kind of more, I think, what it is. If you don't produce a product, then he's going to come back on you because there's a very, very heavy emphasis on the 1 week. And every week we'll see you here and we'll do the exchange. So I think now they're kind of owned in a sort of way. How would you follow up on that?
Yeah. Yeah, kind of if I'm willing to do this to one of my own guys, what would I do to you? It's a massive power play there. And he knows that Jesse's already in line and he can't afford to. Why do you think he doesn't front on Walt at all? Heisenberg, as it were.
I think it's because Heisenberg speaks with confidence, number one. And he doesn't back down because people get, like, where I've noticed people go wrong is to start getting, like, placative and subservient when Tuco gets mad. Because if Tuco kind of, like, puffs his chest out and you kind of like recoil a little bit, then Tuko kind of like will go in even harder. But Walt stays puffed. Like he doesn't back down. And also Walt will start bringing out facts, or he kind of like escalates it even more. And so I think Tuko respects that. And I also think there's a little bit of crazy in Walt too. So I think they both kind of understand each other. I don't think Walt understands Tuko, amazingly, but I think he understands that Tuko is a man of money and that he can speak reason to him, which is why he keeps going to this like sort of rational things. Like, this isn't in your interest, isn't it not? Which I think is different from Jesse, because Walt can convince Jesse with things in the interest, but Jesse always comes up with other things. But Tuko kind of falls more in line with what Walt's saying, which is kind of interesting. He speaks more directly to Tuko's interests because Tuko's interests are simplified. And that could just be perhaps because his interests are more narrowed.
It could have to do with their relationship, too. The relationship between Walt and Jesse is much more complicated, and there's emotions involved, and it's kind of a business thing with Tuko.
That's true. That's true. You don't have to bring in those other emotions and thoughts.
So you're saying machismo is really the big one there.
Yeah, machismo and personal interest. I think both of those kind of play in the line. And also, if you're fucking crazy, but Tuko's crazy, right? But he's very successful in what he's doing. He can't just be crazy, because someone who's just crazy and irrational can't have that kind of success unless somehow other people are leading him, which is obviously not the case there. He's leading the fray. So he must have some sort of rational capability, and if you can appease that, then I think you can... If you can speak to his rational instinct, then I think you can win him over, because that's how he's kind of been successful there. But sorry, I interrupted you.
You didn't.
Okay, well, if you were going to say something, say it, because I just ran out of words.
Do you think age has anything to do with it? The fact that Walt is significantly older than Tuko? At least, I would imagine, at least 10 years, right?
I don't think so. Let me think on that for a second here. Just going to think aloud.
He's very much about respect, right? That's what he's brought up pretty much every time we've seen him. Mm-hmm. Like, respect. Mm-hmm. So maybe there's like a respect your elders type of mentality in there as well.
Quite possible. Because that would make sense, because Jesse would be seen just as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And the other two seemed, I don't know if I could say younger, but maybe a little bit younger. So that's quite possibly a thing, and that is sort of an instinctive thing. People, it's a cultural thing, but it's also instinctive, because people just naturally respect older people more than younger people.
Do you think there's any, do you think Walt has any armor in the fact that he's the cook? And he's like, you like this product, you want me to keep making this product. So he kind of has that. So maybe Tuko did want to beat up Walt, and Walt told him to calm down. And he knew he couldn't unleash his crazy on Walt or Jesse, otherwise Walt may not cook for him anymore. So he did on somebody who there would be no repercussions for him.
So
also being like, you respect me, you respect me, you respect me, type of thing.
Transference?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that would make sense. I mean, because I saw it as just him being like, super high on meth. And just needed to get that energy out, and just got really triggered by something really simple, which he seems to like he would get done anyway, right? But there's definitely a statement being made there too. I think you're right about that, because
every time we've seen him take drugs, he's beaten somebody up. He did with Jesse, and he did with this guy, and he didn't take any drugs when we saw him with Walt.
That's true. Though I wouldn't say it's entirely conclusive, because he still agreed with them on this. He still heard a reason, so I don't think it makes him irrational, but I do think it makes him want to beat people up, which I wonder if that's like a pathless dog sort of thing. If you get super high in meth and you always beat somebody up, getting high in meth will make you likely to beat somebody up.
Possibly. Also, when Walt and Jesse brought him the amount, it was over 4 pounds. It was like 4.2 or something. So go ahead, his guy give Walt more money to make up for the 0.2. So he paid him for any additional over as well, which is very interesting. That was without prompting. That was just Tuko did it.
Yep. I mean, I'm not surprised because it's like he sees Walt as a big moneymaker. I mean, from his point of view, he just hit the jackpot. This guy willing to cook. He's cooking like super fine grade stuff. Tuko has a bit of an air about him too. So if he's selling like the best crystal in the area, he's gonna feel super like good about himself. So I think there's a lot of aspects there that kind of play into that. So I don't think it's that weird. I thought he would do it. I mean, obviously I've seen the episode like 10 years ago, so, but I don't think I remember that part from it. It would be less surprised, or it'd be more surprising to me if Tuko wasn't willing to do this deal anyway. He saw this money making opportunity, and then when he realized that Walt was crazy, back then, he's very open to make the deal, right? Because he's like, this sold really well. Can you make this for me? And so he just sees Walt as like dollar signs. And I think you're right. You can't kill the cook, but I don't think Walt is fully calculating here because you can still imprison the cook. Now, maybe that's a bad idea with Walt because Walt could make weird things, right? He can make chemical reactions happen that you don't expect, and it could screw everything up. But I do think he just sees Walt as like a cash cow right now. So, is there any other aspect of Tuko, do you think? Okay. So, I think that probably covers all my thoughts, unless you have any last thoughts. I don't think you do. Okay.
Walt lying to Skylar is the only other thing that I can think of coming up with that thing with the one to the sweat lodge. Him out of the house for multiple days, so he had an excuse of where he was while he was cooking.
Yep. My respect for Skylar went down a little bit because she suggested holistic healing, which I don't think. I mean, maybe she was trying to get at more like, is this psychological or something, right? Maybe she was doing that, but I don't know. It seemed a little strange there.
Her husband has cancer. I don't blame her for asking the question at least and exploring all your options. It doesn't hurt anything to ask questions.
Yeah.
Walt, I think it shows Walt has gotten much better at lying to Skylar. Because that was a well thought out, meditated. He took the time to like be looking it up ahead of time before she walked in, so that when she walked in, it would prompt that discussion next. And then he already had it planned out and asked her permission. So now it was something he knew she was going to agree to. In a way, it was kind of her idea. It shows he's listening to her. He respects her opinion. And it gives him an excuse that covers the whole time that she's probably not going to check up on. And he can come back and it smells weird. And he has an excuse for that right off the top of his head. It was not the same shaky, weird lying he's done in the past. This was very well done lies that were super believable. And he was confident in them. And Skylar had absolutely no questions about it.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of good points because that's like Walt's unshakable confidence this episode. It just played large. And yeah, honestly, I think the thing that's scary about that is, and this is why I don't go down the path of lying. If I was to lie, like it would be kind of like that kind of lie, like very well planned out, like a little too meticulous. And so Walt and I have a lot of similarities in those sort of weird ways. And that's why I think it's important not to go down that path of making meth, killing Domingo, and the other one. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Amaryllis. Him.
Oh.
And
Amaryllis.
Yeah. And also, I think the worst thing that Walt's done so far is he turned down money. He's going to get free checks in the mail. And he said no. What a monster.
Agreed.
See, this is how I do it. I would cook the meth, I would take the checks, double down on the money. Doesn't make any sense. Get the double money. No.
Double money.
Double money.
Double money.
Like, that never occurred to Walt. Like, I can not only exploit this rich people thing that I had a part in, plus I could exploit people who are addicted to meth at the same time. See, fuck the poor, fuck the rich, fuck everyone. That's the best mentality Walt could have had, but he didn't.
I'm excited for season 2.
I'm not expecting. I don't know what I'm expecting for season 2, because it could escalate even further, or it could kind of stay at this kind of level and be like a gradual rise. What's kind of weird about this season is, if I was to like graph it out, it's kind of like boom, and then kind of peaks down, and then kind of boom, and then kind of, actually it's kind of just like a steady, hold on, it's like up and then kind of stays, gradual rise, and then kind of, escalates right from there. In terms of, say, Walt's severity, because like he starts off like it goes from 0 to like 100 real fast, and then kind of slows down, kind of like just gradually increases, and then when he blows up the place, that's where it kind of really just kind of takes off in his like attitude, like his sense of morality and everything, which I still don't know if he has a real sense of morality. I mean, he does in some ways, but I don't know. But that'll be interesting to see in the later seasons. I think Walt's the character I'm most interested in seeing about. And then I think Skylar's another character I'm interested in seeing, because Skylar is pretty interesting. I think having that, I think she's a very, very important perspective, because she is kind of like the outside view, like the normal view. And you could say Walt Jr. is that in a lot of ways too, but maybe to a lesser extent. But Skylar's kind of the rock that kind of grounds the whole story. And I'm interested to see what happened with her, and also her relationship with Walt, because I don't know how that's sustainable throughout the rest of these seasons if things keep escalating.
Do you have any predictions for what might happen in season 2? Is there going to be escalation? What problems are they going to face?
I think the problems they're going to face is the relationship with Tuko isn't going to go super, super well. I think that's just very shaky, because it's very probable they're going to miss stuff, because Walt's got stuff he's doing, right? I mean, he got a life.
Have a lot of money right now.
That's true too. And then I think Jesse is just going to be going along for the ride for the most part. I think he's going to probably gain some competence in certain things. I don't know what's going to happen with Skylar and Walt. I think that's the biggest question mark for me. I think in later seasons, Walt's he's gonna have a divergent personality a bit, because we're kind of seeing him take on that aggressive, amorphous kind of personality. I think that's just gonna grow and grow over the seasons, and whether it's gonna like turn into something like extreme, I don't know, because I think there could be that kind of duality between like Walt and Heisenberg, let's say, but I don't know if it's going to be more duality or more so that he's just Heisenberg now, but he has to put on this, say, Walt face every once in a while just to deal with like the idiosyncrasies of society. He might actually start hating society for that, because he just wants to be himself there.
I think he's going to develop an allergy to polyethylene and not be able to cook anymore.
That would be unfortunate.
That's my guess.
Is that a spoiler? It seemed very specific.
I have to watch to find out.
It's
either that's either a very specific spoiler or a very specific red herring. Let me ask you something, Nate. Do you like fish?
No.
No?
No.
That's it. That was the whole sentence.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fish aren't very good. I mean, number one, they smell a lot. Number two, they make you kind of gassy. Number three, they come from the sea. Some people say they come from, say rivers, lakes, and ponds, but I think those people are full of shit. The last time I saw a lake was when I was 5. And when I was 5, that was a while ago. Is it probable that lakes and ponds still exist today when I have not seen them with my own eyes? Some people say yes, some people say no. But no. I mean, come on, people. Let's get real. There's a keyboard behind you. That keyboard's real because I can see it. But if I don't see something, Can we say anything? No.
Good question.
No.
Object permanence. What even is it?
Shit, where did Steve go? Oh, hey, Steve.
Oh, I'm here too.
Well, you guys definitely like the video if you like the video. Hate the video if you do, but, you know, still leave a like. It lets me know that you hate it. And commenting is something that you can do as well. It's a matter of typing words. You don't have to type words. I don't care. I'm not going to read the comments anyway, because you guys are going to spoil everything. You're going to say, hey, well, yeah, just wait for season 2 when you see Walt grow a big dick. And it's like, I don't want to know that. I want to be surprised by it. And favoriting the video, that's the thing, right? You can come back to it. Also subscribing, that's like from subscription. That's the root word. And most of all, ding, ding, ding. Definitely, you guys have a great day. And I react, you react, Pepin reacts here on Pepin Reacts.